Cleopatra VII, Queen of Egypt, stands as one of history's most enigmatic and enduring figures, a woman whose intelligence and charisma captivated the greatest men of her age, and whose legendary beauty has inspired mythmakers for more than 2,000 years. But behind the gilded mask of seductress and sovereign lies a deeper, darker story. That of a ruler as relentless and ruthless in her pursuit of power as any tyrant in the annals of antiquity. She has been celebrated for her alliances with Julius Caesar and Mark Antony, the last pharaoh to defy Rome. Yet, recent archaeological discoveries have forced historians to confront a more chilling legacy, one cemented not on the battlefield or in the halls of diplomacy, but in the murder of her own sister, Arsinoe IV. Unearthed skeletal remains from a 2,000-year-old tomb in the ancient city of Ephesus may at last shine light on a long-buried crime, rewriting everything we thought we knew about Cleopatra's ascent to absolute rule. To truly understand Cleopatra's descent into such ruthless intrigue, we must trace her roots within the turbulent world of the Ptolemaic dynasty. Founded by Ptolemy Soter, a Macedonian general among the successors of Alexander the Great, this Greek-speaking family came to dominate Egypt in the wake of Alexander's death in 323 BCE. Their rule would last nearly 3 centuries, a time marked by staggering wealth, cultural sophistication, and crucially, by dynastic strife of the most vicious kind. Adopting the pharaonic custom of royal sibling marriage to safeguard their bloodline, the Ptolemies became infamous for internal conflict. The Egyptian throne was never handed peacefully from father to son. It was seized and defended, usually amid a fog of courtly conspiracy, betrayal and bloodshed. Into this world stepped Cleopatra, in 69 BCE, the daughter of Ptolemy XII Auletes. From an early age, she displayed, by all accounts, exceptional aptitude. While most princesses of her time were groomed for ornamental roles, Cleopatra was instructed in philosophy, mathematics, rhetoric, and the intricacies of Egyptian religion. She became fluent in multiple languages, supposedly speaking as many as 9. Alexandria, the capital, was a glittering cosmopolis at the intersection of Greek and Egyptian worlds, a perfect crucible for a woman both cosmopolitan and cunning. But such advantages could not spare her from the perilous inheritance of Ptolemaic politics. When her father died in 51 BCE, Cleopatra, then about 18, was thrust onto the co-throne with her 10-year-old brother, Ptolemy XIII. The law required them to marry, but their nominal partnership concealed a vicious power struggle between rival courts, regents, and guardians. Cleopatra swiftly asserted herself, eager to direct affairs personally. At once, she became a target for Ptolemy's advisors, who quickly maneuvered to drive her from the palace in Alexandria. The Egyptian royal court split into warring camps, and civil war broke out, a battle for survival that would define her every decision henceforth. Egypt's internal chaos was compounded by the ever-growing shadow of Rome looming across the Mediterranean. The Roman Republic, a colossus straining under its own ambitions and internal fissures, was encroaching eastward. Roman generals and politicians eyed Egypt's fabled grain, gold, and strategic position with hunger. The rulers of Alexandria faced a stark choice: resist Rome and risk annihilation, or court an alliance and accept subjugation. Cleopatra understood this quandary better than most. When Julius Caesar arrived in Egypt in 48 BCE, pursuing his rival Pompey, Cleopatra seized a singular opportunity. Famously, she is said to have entered audience with Caesar, rolled up within a carpet, smuggled past the watch of her enemies, a gesture, both theatrical and bold, perfectly calculated to intrigue the world's most powerful man. Their partnership transformed her fortunes. With Roman backing, Cleopatra regained her throne. Ptolemy XIII drowned in the Nile in the aftermath, and Cleopatra resumed her reign, now aligned with Rome but increasingly autonomous. The Cleopatra known to history is the queen who bore Caesar's only known child, Caesarion, and who later captivated Mark Antony. Her image veered from that of a native Egyptian goddess queen to an exotic and dangerous seductress in the Roman imagination. Such charisma concealed a political will hardened by years of conflict, an attribute displayed most chillingly in her treatment of her own family. Among those swept aside on Cleopatra's path to power was her younger sister, Arsinoe IV. Around 17 years old during the revolt against Cleopatra, Arsinoe emerged as a figurehead for the rebel factions loyal to Ptolemy XIII. She was proclaimed queen by her supporters, an act that amounted to outright defiance of Cleopatra and her Roman patrons. When Caesar and Cleopatra besieged Alexandria, Arsinoe did not flee but joined the resistance. The city's fall sealed her fate. She was eventually captured. Instead of an immediate execution, Caesar committed Arsinoe to the Temple of Artemis at Ephesus, in modern-day Turkey, exiling her to what was assumed to be a life of ceremonial seclusion. But for Cleopatra, exile was not enough. Ancient sources report that she saw in Arsinoe a perpetual rival, a living symbol for counter-movements that could always arise. In the tumultuous years after Caesar's assassination, as Cleopatra sought to solidify her power alongside Mark Antony, she insisted on her sister's elimination. Antony, now ensnared in both Cleopatra's embrace and Egypt's affairs, bowed to her will. Around 41 to 40 BCE, he ordered Arsinoe's execution, an act carried out within the sanctuary of Artemis itself, a shocking violation of both religious custom and the sanctity of the sacred precinct. The murder of Arsinoe was scarcely forgotten by contemporaries. It echoed through the scribblings of ancient historians, Plutarch, Cassius Dio, Josephus, who noted the sacrilege and the impiety of killing a royal woman inside a sacred place. But for centuries, material evidence of this event remained out of reach, lost to legend and the shifting sands of time. That changed with archaeological research in the city of Ephesus. Located on the western coast of modern Turkey, Ephesus was, in its prime, a metropolis rivaling even Alexandria and Rome in splendor. Dominating the city was the great temple of Artemis, one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world, renowned for its immense size and sanctified precincts. Early 20th century excavations uncovered a series of underground burial chambers and a pool tomb complex near the remains of the Artemision. Among them was a waterlogged wooden sarcophagus containing the skeleton of a young woman, deposited in a manner suggesting violent death and hasty burial. The political implications of Arsinoe's murder and the deliberate violation of sanctuary reverberated through the eastern Mediterranean. To Cleopatra, there could be no viable alternative. As long as a rival of royal blood remained, the stability of her rule and her partnership with Rome's most powerful figures, first Caesar, then Antony, could never be assured. Through Mark Antony, she reached into the heart of Roman hegemony itself, ensuring that family was no shield against ambition. To kill one's own sister, and to do so inside the house of Artemis, was to send an unambiguous message. All threats, however sacred, would be eliminated. The calculus of power during Cleopatra's reign was brutally pragmatic, as seen not only in her alliance with Rome, but in the systematic elimination of rivals within her own dynasty. Once Arsinoe was dead, Cleopatra ruled Egypt unchallenged alongside Antony, styling herself not merely as queen, but as Queen of Kings, a living divinity. Their regime minted coins portraying Cleopatra with pharaonic iconography, entwining her likeness with that of Isis, and depicting Antony as both consort and defender. Such propaganda suggested not just authority, but godhead, a claim that could only stand unopposed with the extinction of other claimants, first and foremost among them, her own kin. Yet for all the triumph, such consolidation of power would ultimately prove illusory. The fortunes of Cleopatra and Antony withered as Octavian, the man who would soon become Augustus Caesar, defeated their combined armies at Actium in 31 BCE. In the aftermath, both Antony and Cleopatra chose suicide over the indignity of capture. Cleopatra's death, shrouded in legend, is most famously attributed to the bite of an asp, though some now argue poison to be the more likely cause. With their deaths, the curtain fell on the Ptolemaic dynasty, and with it, the last chapter of Egyptian independence was written. Egypt became a Roman province. Her vast agricultural wealth redirected to feed the insatiable Roman population and cement Augustus's power. The desecration of the Artemis sanctuary had cultural consequences. It inflamed Greek resentment, awakening echoes of sacrilege. The scandal contributed to a backlash that saw Augustus impose sweeping restrictions on foreign cults, reshaping the religious landscape of Asia Minor. The question must be asked: how much was Cleopatra's reputation shaped by historical reality, and how much by the pen of Roman chroniclers eager to justify their conquest? Roman historians and poets, from Livy to Horace, painted her as an enchantress, a dangerous femme fatale, whose seductive wiles cost Rome its best men. In these accounts, the murder of Arsinoe became footnote or spectacle, not fact. But the tomb at Ephesus stands as archaeological proof, a direct challenge to literary bias. The bones of Arsinoe demand that we reconsider Cleopatra not just as a symbol of beauty and diplomacy, but as a sovereign capable of cold-blooded calculations. Science, in this way, acts as a corrective, peeling away centuries of misogynistic myth and giving voice, quite literally, to the silenced victims of power politics. Cleopatra's rise was marked by both brilliance and brutality. Her role in the death of her own sister is no longer just a rumour, but a documented assassination, sanctioned by modern forensic evidence. The Ephesus discovery grants us the only known physical remains of a Ptolemaic royal, a material thread that binds myth to reality, legend to flesh. In reassessing her legacy, we find a ruler who was not merely an object of desire or a pawn of Rome, but a master of her own destiny, a woman for whom ambition and kinship could never peaceably coexist. The intersection of family loyalty and imperial hunger played out across the Mediterranean, and Rome's growing supremacy shaped every calculation Cleopatra made. The legacy of Cleopatra, then, is not simply that of a tragic beauty, nor the lover of mighty men, but as one of antiquity's most formidable and formidable sovereigns. She exemplifies the tremendous cost, both personal and political, that comes with absolute rule. Her story illustrates how the ambitions of a single individual could reshape empires, religions, and the very fabric of history. The tale of Arsinoe's grave in Ephesus reminds us that ancient history is not a fixed canvas, but a living tapestry. With each new discovery, the voices of the defeated, especially those of women, are recovered from oblivion. As we continue to excavate the sites of ancient Egypt and the broader Hellenistic world, we may yet unearth more evidence to fill the gaps in our understanding. In doing so, we discover not only hidden crimes, but the true nature of power, a lesson as vital today as it was in Cleopatra's time.